later on. So for today's agenda, I want to talk very briefly about who Inigo is, our GraphQL platform, just spend a few minutes on that. And then I have a couple of exciting demos on the actual GraphQL IDE for you. So who is Inigo? So we are a GraphQL technology company. We were founded in 2001. We're a VC-backed startup headquartered in Palo Alto. And we have a mission to enable enterprise GraphQL adoption. And we have a growing presence in the enterprise GraphQL space. And we help enterprises fill gaps with their traditional API management, specifically for GraphQL. So we help control and streamline GraphQL APIs, bolster observability and security of GraphQL APIs. And we also offer GraphQL lifecycle management and compliance. So we have comprehensive tools for managing your GraphQL APIs and also ensuring compliance without bogging down developers with compliance issues. Additionally, Inigo has broad applicability across the enterprise. Inigo benefits developers, platform teams, business intelligence, security, and all others involved with the API. Additionally, we offer an agnostic platform that supports any GraphQL server or gateway. So next, let me just spend a few minutes to talk about our platform. It'll give you a good overview and a little bit more context for the demo later on. So the Inigo platform has 4 core competencies. One is GraphQL monitoring, where we can offer observability, errors, and alerting. We also offer schema management for schema checks, registry, and composition, and linting. GraphQL security, so we offer rate limiting, query protection, role-based access control, and other great features. And topic of the day, our Explorer, which is a collaborative query builder and IDE. So I'm going to run through just very quickly some of the main features here. So for GraphQL monitoring, when you log into Inigo and you go to your GraphQL service and you have your service connected, back to Inigo, you see some dashboards and insights with all the GraphQL data that's coming in. And by data, I mean these are the GraphQL queries that are being executed by your GraphQL clients. And this is a really great feature because it helps you identify, errors that are happening, or performance issues, or just give you a high-level view on, how is your GraphQL API being used? And I'll make a note here that, Inigo and our platform, including the monitoring and the analytics, can plug into any GraphQL server or gateway. We support a variety of different middleware integrations and a proxy integration as well. So that gives you everything you need to get started with Inigo right away. Additionally, with our monitoring, there's deep observability. So that gives you field level visibility into all of your GraphQL queries. And this allows you to dive down deep into, as I said, the field level to understand how your schema is being utilized by these queries and these clients. Additionally, we have all this great data about your clients, but we also offer the ability to group by and filter on that data to really slice and dice it, and you'll see a demo of that later on. Also, we offer subgraph tracing if you're running federated GraphQL services. This allows you to see at a top level, what's happening at your gateway and also the underlying subgraphs. Additionally, we offer features to visualize your schema coverage so you can identify how your clients are actually using your schema, and you'll see that later on as well. Additionally, we have advanced alerting capabilities, so you can actually propagate errors and send messages to Slack when you have high severity errors. This allows your operations team to react to events in real time that are happening with your GraphQL API. Also, an exciting new feature that we were adding right now is error impact. So this allows you to prioritize your GraphQL errors and propagate the errors that are the most critical. And this helps prevent alert fatigue when it comes to errors with your GraphQL services. Additionally, for security, we offer some great features such as rate limiting that's very granular. So you can control, for each and every client, exactly how much data they can retrieve and how often to the field level. And this helps prevent denial of service attacks and scraping of your data. Additionally, we offer an operation registry. This allows you to only permit pre-approved queries, and this also has a side effect of boosting performance. Also for security, we offer declarative RBAC, role-based access control, and this also applies to your introspection endpoint. So if you have a client that is introspecting your schema, they're only going to see parts of the schema that they actually have permissions to query. And so this also allows you to keep your introspection enabled in production to provide that benefit for your GraphQL clients while retaining security. Additionally, we offer query protection. This is very important because it allows you to have control over things such as query height and query depth, and also enforcing operation names, right? So you can see more clearly on who's executing what operations through the Inigo dashboards. Additionally, we help protect against injection attacks. So this prevents bad actors from injecting malicious payloads into your GraphQL API. Also, we offer schema management, including a schema navigator, including the ability to diff different versions of your schema, and a schema registry with composition tools. So this applies to Apollo Federation, where you can take your subgraph schemas and compose those into a supergraph schema using only the Inigo tools. Also, we offer schema checking capability. So this allows you to prevent breaking changes from being introduced into your schema in advance. This is a very proactive approach to protecting your clients against breaking changes. Also, we log all activities associated with your schema, including the breaking changes checks and publishing of schema. Also, we've added schema linting capabilities. So this enforces coding standards for your schema, and you can apply these standards across all your GraphQL teams. Additionally, all these great tools integrate into your CI/CD pipeline. So Inigo offers a CLI that you can plug into your CI/CD pipeline, and it can do things such as deploy the Inigo configurations. It can do the schema checking. It can deploy new versions of your schema. This can all be fully automated. And if there's any problems, such as problems with your schema checks, it'll actually stop your CI/CD pipeline so you can fix those problems immediately. Additionally, we offer a full-featured Schema Explorer in the GraphQL Explorer, which you'll see a demo of. So this allows you to, point and click and build queries, and you'll see a demo of that today, along with our query editor with auto-completion, the full query history, pre-flight scripts, and saved query collections. So I want to make a point here on Inigo and getting started. So we actually offer a free tier that's free forever, and so you get some great benefits such as 5 million requests per month. It's compatible with any GraphQL server gateway. You get monitoring, alerting, schema checking, CI/CD integrations, query protection. This is all for free. Our competitors, some of these features are actually enterprise level features, but for Inigo, you get those out of the box. So now I'm going to move on to our demo of Explorer. I hope you found that informative. If you have any specific questions about the Inigo service and what we provide, feel free to put those in the chat. Okay, so let's say that you log into Inigo and you already have a service set up. And I'm going to kind of skip over some of the setup steps here. I have an Apollo Gateway service already set up. I have an Apollo Gateway instance with the subgraph services running on my local machine, right? So that's kind of the architecture here. And as you can see, we have this top level supergraph definition here, right? So you can see all the operations. Underneath, we have 4 subgraph services: products, accounts, inventory, and reviews. And this is important because for the demo today, all the queries that I'm executing are going to be through the gateway. And then those queries are going to be propagated through the gateway down to the underlying subgraphs. And you'll see why that's important later on. Okay, so now I'm actually going to move on to the Explorer. And so this is the Explorer. So this will look familiar with a lot of the other GraphQL IDEs that you may be using, such as GraphQL, but actually offers some additional features, which I'll talk about later on. And so when you set up your GraphQL service in Inigo and you want to use Explorer, one of the first things you have to do is you have to have that endpoint set, right? And so on my local machine, Apollo Gateway is running at localhost 4000, right? And once you have that set, you're ready to go basically to start building some queries. And you can see here that I'm at the root level and I can click here query and I can click the me query and I can add my name and my username, right? And so I can easily compose this query and then click run, right? And you can see that my name here is actually Ada Lovelace, the first ever computer programmer. And you can see how easy it is to build the query. Additionally, I want to point out that with our query editor, we offer extensive validation. So you can see here that it create the red squiggly line underneath because I misspelled this field. We also offer auto completion capabilities as well. So you can just easily build your query by hand if you choose, or you can do the point and click. So this is fairly standard for a GraphQL editor, right? But now I want to show you another feature if you're building a different type of query. So I'm just actually going to open up a new tab. So let's say that you want to build a query that requires some parameter inputs. And so I have another query here called top products, and I'm going to add my name here, and I'm going to add some information about the product that I actually reviewed, right? Going to add some information, maybe let's say add pricing information, right? So let's say, the scenario here is that I'm using a website like, maybe like Amazon and I've reviewed some products on there and I want to have a query to see what products were actually reviewed, right? And so there's a variable that was automatically created, and this was created from the actual parameter input here first. So this first is actually kind of like a limit, so I'm going to just put 3 and click run here. And you can see that the first 3 top products that actually have reviews are returned, right? So you can see how easily you can build, these types of queries using the Inigo Explorer. Another thing that I want to show here is the history that we keep. And so this is very convenient where if you're executing queries and you want to go back and say, okay, I changed this query, how does this compare to a previous query that I ran, right? And maybe you want to look at some things like, the time of execution or the size, status, potentially even headers, right? We actually keep all that information here within the Explorer. So you can go through and you can see exactly everything that you executed. And I'll note here that this information is actually stored in your browser's local storage. This is not sent out to the Inigo cloud. So this is good, if you're concerned about security and you just want to keep some of this data local, like some of the response data, right? It's actually, right there in your browser, right? So that's a great feature. Now I want to move on. I want to show you a different query. And this query is going to be used later on for the demo as well. So I have a specific query here. It's called My Reviewed Products to Buy Again. So these are products that I personally reviewed, and I may want to buy them again in the future. And I want to see the name of the product and the price and shipping estimate. So that's kind of the point of the query. And this query is interesting because it actually exercises all 4 of the subgraphs underneath the gateway, right? And I actually put in some randomly generated errors and delays out of the product subgraph. So as I execute this query, you'll see that occasionally I'll get some errors popping up here. Occasionally you might see some delays, like right there, right? So to begin populating some of the data for analytical purposes, I'm actually going to run this 10x right here underneath the run menu. So 10x, this thing's going to run, run it 10x again. And now that we have these queries running, and you can see the history is being populated here, I'm going to come back momentarily, and we're going to explore this a little bit further with some of Inigo's observed capabilities. But before I do that, I want to show you a couple other features. So, let's say this is a really important query that you like to use frequently, maybe for development purposes or testing purposes, right? You can actually create query collections. So if you go here to the collections and click create, I can just create a collection here called fave queries and do create. So this gives you the ability to click the save button here and then add your collection and then do save, right? And so now you can simply come back to this query later on. You can build multiple collections with multiple queries. And this is, like I say, really handy if you have frequently used queries. Another feature that's also important I want to cover just real quick is the security aspects of using Explorer. And so your GraphQL endpoint may actually have security in place. There might be a requirement for a JOT token, for example. And, one way that you can get around that is you can actually, manually set up a header that has a token in it. But it's also more common to create a script that you can run that actually, run the code necessary to retrieve a token for you and then set that into an environment variable. And I actually have an example of that from our internal Inigo service, GraphQL service, where we have our own custom pre-flight script. And so this authenticates with the internal Inigo service for our own purposes. And we actually have an Inigo JavaScript object that you can use. It's built in, and you can use it for, just easily executing some GraphQL queries. You can use it right here for capturing user input. So this will actually bring up a dialog box with an email and password field. And then you can enter that information in, and then it'll execute a query to actually authenticate against our GraphQL API. And then down here at the bottom, it sets the environment variable with the token. And so that's really cool how that's all integrated. You can see an example here where this is the actual token value that was created from the pre-flight script. And then also, if you look here at the headers, you can see how you can set a header, right? So you might require an authorization header for OpenID Connect with a bearer token, and that is populated with the actual JOT token value. So that's how all that works. So it's actually pretty easy to use, and you can set that up however you need. You probably are using a third-party authentication provider, and you can just write the JavaScript code and make all that work. Okay, so that is a pretty comprehensive overview of our Explorer, and I want to point out that this is all tightly integrated with the rest of Inigo, and I want to show that off a little bit now that we have some data in the system. And so what you need to do to start seeing the data that was executed, coming out of Explorer is you go to this Observe tab, right? And you can actually see all the queries that have been executed, right? And you can change the time frame here. So in this case, I'm just going to do queries that I was executing over the last 5 minutes, right? And you can see that I executed that my reviewed products to buy again multiple times. And you can slice and dice this data however you want. We offer an extensive list of filters that you can apply against this data. And so you can apply filters based on, who the client is, specific error messages or types, fields that were actually used, past the fields, latencies, names of the operation or a name prefix. You can provide some exclusions on names, the organization rules, the actual status of the query. So you can filter on any of these or all of them, really. Also, additionally, you can do group bys. And this allows you to group together operations, for example. So here you can see this is a grouping of my review products to buy again. Over the last 5 minutes, I ran this query 25 times. And over the last 5 minutes, this is actually the P95 latency for this query. And as you can see, it's over 2 seconds. That's not very good, right? So we might want to take a closer look at that a little bit later on, right? And you can see that, there's quite a few errors here as well in running this query. Wow, 84% of these actually have errors. So that's not good, right? Also, you can see group by error message, and you can see that, hey, all these actually have the same exact error message. That's kind of interesting, right? So that's a way you can, kind of group the data together. As I mentioned, there's filtering as well. So you can come in here and I can just do a filter based on any error, right? And you can apply that. I think I went outside my window here now, 5 minutes. There we go. So now I can see all the errors, right? So in this scenario, you probably want to, dig a little bit deeper here and understand, okay, what is actually causing these errors, especially that I'm running, this GraphQL gateway and there's these underlying subgraphs, right? So how do I figure out where this is actually originating from? And so you can do that by clicking on the actual query. We have this trace ID, which uniquely identifies every query. You come in here and you can see the actual structure of the query that was executed. You can see the parsed version of the query. So you can see this is definitely the same query that I was running in the Inigo Explorer. You can see the actual error message here that occurred. And you can click through and you can see, all the different ones, right? So darn, something went wrong, right? So then you can go here to trace. And you can see that, there's an error at the top level. You can see that accounts and reviews, those successfully executed, but actually the problem popped up here with products, right? And you can see that's where the actual error message originated from. So that's very interesting. This gives you, a lot more insights into, the performance of not only your supergraph, but your subgraphs and where the errors are actually coming from. I also want to point out as well that we have the ability to do some sorting as well on the data, right? So if you remember before, we had some concerns about, latency issues potentially. So you can simply just do sort by descending on the latencies, right? And that gives you a little bit more ability to understand, what are the actual slowest performing queries. You can also apply filters based on, the latencies as well. Also, you have a timeline up here at the top that you can adjust so you can see latencies over time as well. That may be interesting. So you can see if overall you're getting some degradation of the performance from your GraphQL server. So that's a way to maybe look a little bit more closely at that, right? So now I want to show a couple other features here, now that we've seen some of the observability. So actually, if you click on the Schema tab here, you can see the full, schema with the types, right? And all the different fields that are in the types. And there's actually a button here, this observe button. So this allows you to go back and see, what are all the queries that actually use that field, right? So it kind of links back to the analytics part of Inigo, the observability, right? You also have the ability to see diffs on your schema. So this is version 3 versus version 4. And you can see that the reviews type was added. That was the difference between those two versions. So that's very important for understanding, how is my schema evolving over time? This is all automatically versioned, whether you're using a GraphQL gateway or you have a simple GraphQL server. It works the same both ways. Additionally, as I mentioned from the slides, we have this activity screen. So this is where you can see the results of things like the schema checking and the schema publishing and understand what's happening there, right? Also, you have the configurations that are deployed to Inigo, the health, the agent, and of course the Explorer, right? And another thing I want to point out too is, as you start using Inigo more and using the more advanced features such as schema checking, we have additional capabilities in the Observe where you can actually go in here and you can see this tree view, right? And this tree view actually will show you the occurrences of the queries that are executed in your system. And you can see here that, top products was executed, one time here, me was executed 28 times. And you get a full breakdown on the actual utilization of all the types and fields in these queries. So this is our tree view, and you actually can, change the view to a certain depth with these queries, right? And then also we have a heat map feature. And so this allows you to see what are the most popular queries, most popular fields that are being used by your queries, right? And so you can see here that the me query is 88% of all the operations that are being run, right? And the user.name field is in 88% as well. And you can see down here at the bottom that product UPC, for example, isn't never used. So this is really useful for understanding, how is my schema actually being utilized? And then additionally, we have the feature here to show the actual coverage, right? And you can see here for the product type, for example, that, once again, UPC and then the weight fields, they're not used by any of the queries, right? So this is very useful, once again, for, putting those schema checks in place. I mentioned the schema checks can be, utilized as far as your, CI/CD pipeline goes. As I mentioned in the slides, this can all be fully automated, or you can simply manually come in here and just explore and understand, hey, how is my GraphQL API actually being used? So there's multiple ways to kind of analyze that, understand how you should evolve your schema over time. So now I'm going to move on here to the next segment and announce that we actually are taking this great Explorer feature and we're making it public, that, it's open to anybody, right? It's a really great tool. And so we decided to create this explore.inigo.io. And I encourage you to actually just go out there and go to this URL, explore.inigo.io. And you'll see that this will pop up and you don't have to log into Inigo to get to it. This is free to use by anybody, no strings attached, right? And so we actually have a sample URL that you can use. So this actually returns some SpaceX data. And so Shahar put a link in there to the exact Explorer, kind of shortcut link, or you can put the link in there, on your own as well into the endpoint. Either way, you also might consider, if you have a public GraphQL endpoint, maybe you put that in there instead of this, if you want, But the cool thing about this is, once you have your endpoint set up, once again, you can come in here and you can start, just building some queries, point and click, right? And so you can come down here and you can click, for example, rockets. And I encourage you to follow along, just click rockets, right? And you can come in here and you can click like rocket name, for example, right? And then also you can click some other fields here. So maybe we want to know a little bit more about payload weights, for example, in pounds. So you can go in here and you can click that. Hey, we'll put kilograms there too. So you can click that. And then also you noticed here that there's a requirement for an input for a limit, right? And so we're not going to get any queries with a limit of 0. So here I'm going to put a limit of 3. Click run, and you can see that this public endpoint with SpaceX data is being automatically queried, And so this query is being executed once again, publicly through our Explorer tool. And then I also want to show as well that many of the features that we offer with the integrated Explorer into our platform are also available here with the public Explorer. So we actually have the collections feature. We have the query history feature. So I'll run this again. And you can see, you get the full history here once again, right? So this is, definitely cool. Another thing I want to show too is that if you go here to the connection settings, you have something here called the proxy. And so what we do here is we actually improve the reliability of running queries against this public endpoint by running it through a proxy rather than directly run it from the web browser itself. And so this can help overcome some issues you might run into with public GraphQL endpoints. Maybe CORS headers are required or something else, right? So this improves that reliability. So that's also a great feature that is unique to Explore, right? And you also have the ability to enable or disable the history. Another great feature as well is, the ability to create essentially shortcut links. So maybe you have a query here that you want to share with other members of your team, right? And so you can actually use this copy button, copy link button, and there's an alternative here where it's copy with variables. So you can click that copy with variables. And so you can just go out here and I can paste that link, and that will take you to the explore.inigo.io, and the endpoint will be automatically configured. The query will be automatically set up. The variables will automatically be set, and anybody can just run the query. And so let's say that, you have like some documentation or a GitHub repo, and you have some queries in there, and you want the easiest possible way for somebody to run that query, to experiment with it. Really what you could do is just, take that link that you generate from this copy button and just put that in there, and it'll be really easy for anybody to begin running those GraphQL queries, right? With everything automatically set up for you. So that is a really great feature that I think goes beyond many of the other GraphQL editors that are out there. So really neat stuff. So that is the tour of the public Explorer. So now I want to quickly wrap this up, and we do have some time for a Q&A as well, which is great. So I'm going to just show this real quick. So we encourage you to experiment a little bit more with Inigo and Inigo Explorer. Like I mentioned, if you have a public GraphQL endpoint or you have a favorite GraphQL endpoint, please experiment with Explorer, experiment with the features, join our Slack, give us some feedback, let us know how you like it, right? We're always listening to our customers and users of Inigo. So join our Slack, connect with us. Additionally, if you're interested in talking to us a little bit more about your GraphQL use case, you can set up a meeting with us. You can just email us at sales@inigo.io. We can give you a demo. We can show you how to set up your GraphQL endpoint, talk about the features of Inigo, and how they might help you overcome some of your challenges with using GraphQL. So maybe you have challenges around observability or security. We can talk more specifically about that. We can talk about our free tier and some of the features that you get out of the box with Inigo. Additionally, if you want to create that free account, you can simply go to app.inigo.io. That is where the platform is located. You can create an account. You can just do a single sign-on integration with Google or GitHub or create a username and password. It's very easy to get started. Additionally, at docs.inigo.io, we have a getting started guide. You can set up, any GraphQL server or gateway. As I mentioned, we have specific documentation on the most popular GraphQL servers. So it's very easy to get started. And if you have any questions, once again, you can go to our Slack. We'll respond very quickly to any questions that you might have. So that concludes my presentation and demo. Gonna stop that. And Shahar, do we have any questions?
There's two questions. Will it work with, can Inigo work with Hazura?
Yes, we actually have an integration with Hazura. And even better, if you go to our blog, I actually have a blog that is specific to Hazura. And it's right here. It's called Hazura plus Inigo, How to Prevent a Denial of Service Attack. So once you get up Hazura, this blog is actually a good guide to show you, how you can simulate denial of service attack and how you can, kind of mitigate that. And obviously a denial of service attack is not specific to Hazura, but this is a great scenario. So combine this with the actual Hazura documentation and you're on your way.
And thank you. And the second question was there a limit on the free tier?
Yeah, so we actually have information here on our pricing page that shows you specific information about what you get for free, right? So it's free forever, no credit card required. You get up to 5 million requests per month. You get the monitoring, alerting, you get schema checks, linting, you can integrate with your CI/CD. You get the Explorer IDE, the rate limiting. You get more features down here as well that we kind of break down for you. And I want to make the point that a lot of these features that we give away for free are enterprise level features with our competitors, like, the query protection stuff. Some of our competitors, that's something you have to pay for, right? But you get it for free with Inigo.
Nice. Very nice. That's it. Then thank you, Eric. Great overview of the Inigo Explorer or Inigo IDE and overall platform. For those who are interested to learn more, please reach out and hope to hear back from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to ping us on Slack. You can shoot me an email if you want, eric@inigo.io, or just email us at sales.inigo.io. Definitely hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.